maybe to do a special and different event, but it will be a way for us to present ourselves to the community, to explain a little bit what we want to do, what we want to accomplish, and the tools that we have to do it. And of course, also invite you to help us on this mission and gather your insights.
Awesome. So I think most of you will know Tiago and myself because we've been beating the drum around Aveiro in the region to gather interest about this initiative. It's an entrepreneurial community, and we have a couple of people joining us on stage here today that we will introduce shortly, who will help us tell that story as well. So as Tiago said, today is really about an introduction, and we'd like to share with you why we're bringing Canopy to Aveiro. So I'm going to just run through the agenda very quickly so that you know the running order and what to expect. And a little bit of housekeeping. You should know that we are recording the session. So if and when we invite you to join us on stage, which we'd love to do, and we very much hope you'll jump in, maybe just something for you to note that this will be recorded and available for replay afterwards. So the agenda, we've got, after a little introduction, we will be doing a series of reverse pitches. So it is a demo night still. We will be doing the demos as Canopy. First, you'll hear from Tiago and myself about how we discovered Canopy, why we love it, and why we want to bring it to Aveiro, right? And then the next reverse pitch will be from Stuart Noakes. Stuart, do you want to give us a little wave? Stu, as we call Stuart. Stu is one of the founders of Canopy. So we are going to hear from him the founding story of Canopy and how he brought Canopy to Portugal. And then after that, we will have Nick Eversett. Hi. Yes, Nick is waving, who has launched Canopy, established Canopy in the region of the southwest of England. So we thought it would be great to hear from Nick because it's another region outside of the capital, but is really doing well in terms of building an entrepreneurial community as a service for the ecosystem there. So thank you, Nick, for joining us this evening. And then we come back to Tiago and myself. We'll talk to you about what we are going to be doing in Aveiro, out of Aveiro, but for the region, in terms of what the offer is, right? What Canopy brings and would like to bring to the region and the ecosystem. And then finally, we'd like to end the session, hopefully for the second half, really, of questions and answers, opening the floor. We'd like to invite members of the community, members of the audience to contribute with their thoughts on how the ecosystem is in their part of the region and what they'd like to see next for the ecosystem. So we really want to hear your views because that's what this is about. It's about serving the community. So that's our introduction. Can I hand over to Tiago first? Tiago, tell us why Canopy?
Yeah, so today I'm a bit on both positions. So I'm co-hosting, but I'm also as giving my testimony basically of how I got to this stage. So I've been working for the last 10 years at Bosch here in Aveiro. I've been doing international product management, and there was once this internal innovation competition where I applied with my own idea of a product, an IoT product, which basically consists in a smart plug that is able to convert an existing electric water heater into a smart device. And yeah, I tried to push this idea as much as possible internally, and then we reached to a stage where basically we got to a dead end where Bosch basically motivated me to try to do it on my own with my own startup, and really incentivized me to do this by offering me, for example, unpaid leave, and created me some conditions to be able to do it. But it would be like a 100% independent startup. So basically my workplace would not be any Bosch. And so this was quite challenging for me, of course. Luckily, I was able to find investors. We found Energy as our first investors. And this was when I first got a chance to meet Stuart. So Stuart was responsible for one of the trainings that the investors provided to their startups. I think the first one I had with him was about the startup processes, the investment gathering, a little bit of pitching, and I loved it. So this was part of a module of different type of courses, different training sessions. But for me, Stuart was the best one. I really loved the way that he presented himself. Sorry, Stuart.
10 euros. There you go. Right now. That's perfect.
You know it's honest. It's honest. And this was how I first put my very small, my first, I would say, a toe inside Canopy. And afterwards, so Stuart invited me to enroll and participate on some of Canopy events. And you need to understand that when I was doing this, I was basically sitting now alone at my place at home, working from home alone. After I've been for 10 years sitting on an open space with 10 colleagues, all sharing stories and laughs and stuff like that. So this for me was the most challenging part of actually becoming an entrepreneur, was the solitude. Suddenly after 10 years of having a really fun working environment, you are alone in your place and looking at a black screen from the TV and wondering, okay, so what's next? And this for me still is the best value add that I got from Canopy. It's really this sense of team. When you no longer have one, it still gives you this sense of belonging to a community, of being supportive, of having peers that you can rely on, and the stories that can inspire you and you can learn from other experiences. So this was how I also started to meet Prabha, when I actually got to know Prabha during Founders Friday, and we will explain you a little bit about those sessions. But it even connected me to people in my own region in Aveiro that I had no idea, and Prabha and I have been helping each other ever since on this entrepreneurial journey. Mm-hmm. So it's really about the community for me. Canopy. It's really about this connected group of people that help each other. And for me, I was able to maintain this feeling of belonging to a team and of being able to have fun while I am working alone, basically.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. I think I can definitely relate to that, and probably many others in Canopy. Community is the strength, no, Tiago? Yeah. So shall I jump in here with my little story on Canopy and discovering the tribe, as we call the group of people who are committed to the success of Canopy. So a little bit about myself. So I'm Prabha. I was born in Singapore. I grew up in the UK, and my business life has taken me through London, Berlin. I was in the US for a little bit as well, on the West Coast, and Lisbon, and eventually Aveiro. So I have professionally, I have, or on the business side, I have experience in both real estate and apparel because of the startup, this crazy startup that I pursued. But that was actually the reason that I met Canopy, of course. So I first discovered Canopy when I was in Lisbon, just for 7 months in 2017. I was introduced to Stu as someone who would be a trusted guide and mentor. and indeed he has been. And I started to meet some of the Canopy folks back then. Turn of events took me away to the US, and then I came back. Actually landed back in Portugal early last year in Aveiro, because it was recommended to me that I meet a certain design agency here, actually, who are good friends, and I hope we hear from them later on today as well. Pedro Gomez, who are now Design Possibility. So I came to meet local talent, but then what happened was I fell in love. So there's a really happy ending to that story. I decided to stay in Aveiro, and in that time, I have really grown to love the people, the community, and everything that's happening in the region. I think Tiago will agree with me that there's a lot of energy here in terms of the economy, and I see a lot of creativity here. So this is kind of the raw foundations that I really thought we could help to support the growth of with something like Canopy. I of course stayed in touch with Stu and Canopy, and started working with a real estate project in Lisbon later last year, so from Aveiro. And that's when I saw Canopy's strengths unfold. So I got to know more people from the tribe, which, as I said, is this committed group of people to the growth of Canopy. Went to a couple of in-person demo nights at the time in Lisbon, which Stu and team had organized, and they're super energetic events, and really, I think that a lot of the sort of entrepreneurial resilience that you see in different parts of the world, I started to see in these kinds of events in Lisbon. Thanks to Stu sort of bringing together founders and mentors and investors and service providers all in one place. So this and of course the real estate project that I've worked on, we've connected with a lot of people thanks to Stu and Canopy. So yeah, I think there I saw this real what I have this real motivation to see Aveiro succeed and thrive, and I think Canopy can be a really strong part of that. So that's what we would love to do here in Aveiro with Canopy, and we'll tell you a little bit about how we intend to do that. But Stu, I think what would be really great to hear is how Canopy came about, because I think this starts to tell the story of what it does.
Are you going to hold me to a strict 5 minutes? I just need to know that before we start, right?
Because I did quite well, right? I was like 5 minutes on the mark. I don't know how I did that, but
all right, I'm getting my timer. Hang on, where's my timer? I don't want to screw this one up. I can't let you down.
No. You get in there, Stu. We'll just raise the flag.
Okay, that's cool.
By the way, if anyone has questions during the session, just write them and we'll try to answer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, always love a good question. Please throw them in. So for me, the Canopy story is obviously it's a very personal one. I was one of the original co-founders in Boston 5 years ago, a crazy 5 years ago now, and really we created Canopy out of the ashes of a couple of other things that we were doing. And in Boston, what you need to understand about the ecosystem there, when we built the first incubator there, we were like the 58th incubator in the city. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and you have to be super clear about what you're doing. And you also have a community that's incredibly vibrant and doing a lot of different stuff. So in Boston, which is regarded as maybe the third or the fourth startup ecosystem in the country, in the US, if you just concentrate on one niche of startups and you focus on that niche entirely with your every part of your being in Boston, the chances are you may almost keep up. But if you try and encompass all niches and all parts of the community, really just deal flow alone, you're not going to be able to do it. It's just not possible, you know. And you can niche within a niche, right? If you say I just deal with furniture tech startups, right, then that's not going to be good enough. You're going to have to specialize in chairs or even legs of chairs in order to keep up with what's going on. It's a pretty tough place. But one of the things that Boston, which is an incredible city for me and a big part of my heritage, including where I got married, and lots of other things have happened in that city for me. So a big place. And what you see in that city, though, is still a lot of pockets and disaggregation, partly because of the way everybody has to concentrate on their little bit just to keep up with it. And so Matt, Kelly, and I created Canopy as an inclusive network, an inclusive community. And we wanted to challenge a couple of norms, but really wanted to bring lots of different people together with the same DNA. So saying, okay, you may be in your niche, and you may be in your niche, and you may be in your niche, and you may be a politician, and you may be a designer, and you may be a non-profit, and you may be a tech startup, but actually the DNA that runs throughout you all is the same. It's just you're in different places. And for the first time in kind of like the Boston ecosystem, we wanted to create this place where those people came together. So the first physical space literally had we had comic artist conventions hosted in our space in the middle of weekends, and our walls were worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, where the artists had actually just doodled on the walls, because we had all the idea paint on, so you could literally scribble on the walls and the furniture and everything. And we had people running for state senate positions in our space, as well as kids and dogs running through the space halfway through the day, and all sorts of things. It was absolutely brilliant and crazy and chaotic, and probably reflective of Matt and my brains and how crazy that can all be. So the first part of the whole mission was inclusive, and it was bringing those people together and kind of, you know, creating that serendipity. And then beyond that, it was about creating a different kind of narrative and putting that brain trust to work in really meaningful ways. So, and Matt's really the strong part of the DNA in that, and to reflect that really, when we talk about our opening event was Noam Chomsky speaking at Tufts Auditorium about the role of innovation in peace and international security. So now you've got 400 people in Tufts Auditorium with an amazing keynote speaker like that. And, you know, it's the first and only event we've ever run with police escorts and stuff, because he's such a controversial figure with some people. And it took the ecosystem to a new place to say, think about this stuff, right? You're really smart people. You're coming from all these different walks of life. What could you be doing in this place about peace and international security? And we had the mayor of Somerville, because that's where we were born in Somerville, which is a little kind of city to the side of Boston. And Matt, you know, it's his heritage there. It's where he was born and raised and spent a lot of his life, and it's where he's raising his daughter and where he and Kelly live. And we had the mayor of Somerville say that we were curious and abnormal people that were creating an amazing thing in Somerville, which is pretty cool. And I'd built incubators in other countries, in India before that, and I built another one in Boston before we started this one. And so we started to create this vibrancy, and then I moved with my family to Portugal, and all of the things were going on in Boston, and I was traveling back to Boston, and then at some point somebody said in their wiseness, why don't we do this in Lisbon? And that was pretty scary as a concept. We tried a little bit in the UK, but this was very much born out of Somerville, and it was doing stuff in that ecosystem. And as I mentioned, very busy ecosystem trying to keep up with it. So why would you do it in Lisbon? Why would you? Why, when you're already doing it in Boston? And you would do it in Lisbon because it's an amazing ecosystem in itself, and more importantly, it's an emerging ecosystem. So the big problem that we always faced with Boston is it has its own character already. And good, bad, indifferent, there are some amazing people in Boston, but there are also some assholes. There's some people there that maybe you wouldn't want to work with, and it has all the different colors and flavors and stuff of an ecosystem, a much bigger, more robust ecosystem. And we knew what kind of ecosystem we wanted to see. And as Lisbon started to emerge, we thought, well, here's a chance to be part of the narrative. Here's a chance to help that ecosystem learn from some of the best things we know around in the world, in India and in the US and in the UK. And here's a chance actually to not let it learn some of the bad lessons that we can see from other places. And maybe, just maybe, we have half a chance of having some influence on that. So it began with a test event in a law firm's offices, where we had capacity of about 65, and we had about 85 people come to the first event, and we asked them quite clearly, do you want to see more of this? And they said yes. And we're now 43 consecutive demo nights later, still evolving, still learning, still showcasing people's events. And that's obviously the signature stuff that we do. But what we've really focused on is helping ones and twos and people on their dreams, on their journey to follow their dreams, and help them to be successful or to fail quickly and safely, and to always land back into a community of people that will help them. So some of the big strap lines for us are, if even your mom thinks you're crazy, you'll still get a big hug at Canopy. And that's because it does get a bit lonely at times. And I've tried to build a few companies, and every once in a while, quite a lot of the time, people have said that I'm quite crazy in some of the thoughts that I have. But those thoughts, those unique thoughts, are the things that take you to new places. That breaking of norms and not acceptance of the status quo is what creates the opportunity. And so people will think you crazy, and maybe you are, but at least you get a chance to explore that with some friends along the way. And then I guess, the thing that I should really emphasize, which is the heart of what is Canopy now, is this tribal group, which has grown up and self-formed within the community. So this isn't something that we designed. This isn't something that Matt or I sat down and went, you know what, I think we'd really like one of these. What happened was, and I apologize to Nelson for the way that I tell this, 3 drunk Brazilian guys came up to me at the end of a demo night, and they said, Stu, we love demo night. We come to as many as we can. It's brilliant. We've made new friends. We've made some amazing business. We always have a good time. You give us pizza. We never pay for anything. We have beers, and it's really great. And we'd like to give you some money. And I looked at him and I said, Nelson, I love you. You're drunk. Go away and leave me alone. And he said, no, we're serious. This is a really big deal for us. We want to help you keep this stuff going. We don't want it to disappear. It's important. If you start a new membership, call it whatever you want. We'd love to join, and we'll pay you some money, and we'll put it in the bank tonight. So, he said to me, send me a link, I'll do it. And, he was drunk, and I forgave him, and it was all good, big hugs, and everybody went home. But I did that thing for him, and I sent him the link at like 1 a.m, and he paid up. He put the money in the bank account, and so did the other guys. And then they went out of their way to tell other people, and they said, you know what, Demo Night's really awesome. You should come and join the tribe. Come and help everything keep going. And I was like, well, that's amazing. That's really cool. So we let that run. And what it started off with is really just a group just helping to co-fund the activities. But then it changed, and it did something quite cool. It started giving me lots of grief. It started telling me that I wasn't doing a good enough job. It started giving suggestions and saying, what about this? What about that? It started saying, why don't we try doing something new in Demo Night? And this group got a little bit bigger, and it got a little bit more raucous. And then it said, in their various forms and various people, let me help. So imagine that as a concept, right? If we'd have sat down to design the future of Canopy and said, what we'd like to do is create a subscription membership base that will volunteer to do stuff, everybody would have thought we were insane. But it's self-formed. It's self-formed from the value that it found in the community. And it started, as a group, it started to co-create and change what was happening and create the narrative that we'd always hoped would be made. And what did that mean? Well, that meant that, if you talk in business terms, right, every time you run an event, you want a net promoter score. You want people to be happy with what happened. You want them to come back. And a net promoter score was like 60, 65. Awesome. Can't get much better than that. Unless you actually listen to people that talk to you and give you grief and give you suggestions, and then actually do what they say and do it with them, and suddenly your net promoter score is at 75, and then it's at 80, and then it's at 85, and then for one event it was a shocking 93. And you start to appreciate that actually the voices in the community and the voices of the events and the voices of the ecosystem are not mine or Matt's or any one particular person or really any one directed group. It's co-created, and now we're really rocking. Now we're in someplace special, because it doesn't even matter if I turn up as a co-founder now, because the buoyancy of what's happening is carrying itself, and that's amazing. And that's really why we're at 43, 44, 45 demo nights. So then what happens is really great people say, do you know what, I'd like to do that too. And that's where people like Nick emerge, and that's where people like you emerge, and you start to create these communities with your own voices and your own needs and reflective of your own areas. And it's different again, but it's still the same DNA. It's still the DNA of people that care. It's still the DNA of people that are innovative. It's still the slightly crazy DNA of people that don't always accept the norms and the status quo. And it's then people that help each other do it. So Nick helps me, and I help Prabha, and Prabha helps Nick, and we don't do it for any particular reason other than it seems to be the right thing to do, and it makes us all smile, right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, because helping. I loved Stu, your imagery of helping someone get up the next rung of the ladder. I think that is a consistent feeling in Canopy. You can see that happening all the time across people. And Stu, if you, I don't want to interrupt, but I would love to reflect on the sort of characteristics that you have exemplified, because this is the community for me, which differentiates it from other communities, right? And that's why we love it so much, I think. It's honest, it's inclusive, it's informal, which I think is important, because then you let your guard down, and you can be yourself, you can be honest with each other, and you can get the help that you need. And this organic thing, I think, is really exciting, and exactly what people talk about when they talk about design thinking, etc. And it just works. So these are the things that I really see. Inclusivity is super important for I think myself and a lot of people I see in the tribe, and I would love for that to continue to be the case with our own example.
Yeah, I really hope as we grow, and we've had people from outside the tribe approach us and say, can I run Canopy events or communities in my area? And as far afield as South America, I've had a recent inquiry, and we don't, as cool as all those people might be, we don't work with anybody who isn't in the tribe. And that's because everybody who's in the tribe kind of gets it. They've made a commitment after knowing what's going on. They carry the same DNA. We know them, they know us. And then when we make a decision to co-create, we kind of all know what's happening. Whereas people from outside who maybe have seen it and admire it or like it and want to apply it, it doesn't work in quite the same way. So we're not going that route. We like everybody to be in the tent, but the inclusiveness stuff is huge, right? So I don't explain this very well, but in the startup world, if you come to somebody as an investor, every investor knows what they want to invest in, but no investor really knows what's right and what's going to work. And if any investor or any part of the ecosystem discriminates to one particular niche of people, I think that also says it doesn't know what's right and what's going to work. Inclusiveness is about everybody having a fair shout and everybody getting a good go, because building a company is hard enough. And so we need all the friends and all the worldviews and all the other things coming together to make really good decisions and make really good teams and get it going. And so inclusiveness is massive. But as Nelson puts it really well, as the president of the tribe, he said, but we're also not a tool or a vehicle for any particular group. So we're not paid for by government, but we may do some things that government pay for. We're not paid for by any corporate, but we may run corporate events or incubation. And we're never a tool for anybody else's agenda, because we're a community agenda. All those things go to support the community. The other thing that's super core about everything, and Nelson's very strong about saying this, and I haven't got better words than his, but he says it's consistency. He says, if we're going to do a demo night on Tuesday evening at 7:00, we do a demo night. It doesn't matter if one person comes. It doesn't matter if nobody comes. If we said it's going to happen, we're going to make it happen. And we're going to make it happen every month on that Tuesday. And it's going to keep going, because you don't get to 43 by accident. You have to really graft at it. And that consistency then plays out into the rhythm of the month, into the way we do mentoring. And yes, we screw stuff up, but we keep focusing on how do we keep being more consistent and delivering on our promises and trying not to overreach, but to stretch ourselves and do stuff. And as I say, we do screw up, and I screw up, and even Nick occasionally screws up. But we're always striving for this, because him much less than me, I will promise you. But we're always striving for this consistency. And if Nelson were here, I know he'd be beating on that drum and making that super clear. I think it's also how you build good companies, right? If you're building a startup and you're not consistent, it may grow, it may not. But if you get consistent, suddenly you start to get lucky. And as you get lucky and consistent, you get successful. And it's really kind of cool.
Nice.
What do you think, Nick? Am I talking craziness, or any of that reflective of you in the Southwest?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, I mean, I won't. I'll keep it brief, because I know we've got other things to talk about. But yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a feel of kind of what Canopy Southwest, which is southwest of England. It's fairly relatively low population. Our kind of main industries are kind of a marine, tourism, agriculture, and retirement, really. So we have quite a lot of older people, and we have reasonable population, but it's kind of spread out in a few population centres which don't really play together. So, and I think one of the things about Canopy Southwest is that, you know, where in something like Boston or Lisbon, you've got your niches. Our niches are relocations. It's the fact that people live in their areas and they don't play together. And one of the things that we wanted to do, and I met Stu 2 years ago when we were both working for working with the same company, and then met him again afterwards, and he asked me whether I wanted to get involved in kind of helping him with the set up Canopy Southwest, and of course I did. I didn't know how much fun it was going to be, because you mentioned the tribe, and then I didn't know what a tribe was. You know, only since then it's just been amazing, just all the great people and all the great support and friendship that you can build up, you know, with like-minded people. It's very exciting, especially if you're all doing something you all want to do, you know, together, you know, in your own different ways. So, and that's been really exciting. So, I guess for Canopy Southwest, I mean, our kind of objective has been, as I said, is trying to bring people together that are kind of geographically split, and often live in their own kind of location silos. And you know, we've had quite a bit of success in working with the local incubators and you know, startup vehicles in the Southwest. We've got Exeter, Plymouth, and then there's a couple in Cornwall as well. Falmouth, and there's the Rural Business School as well. So we're trying to build not only links between those organisations, but also links between the people who are in them and particularly the ones who've left, because they give a great support while they're in there, but the community needs to go on outside that. So one of our aims is to kind of build that community for all the startups, would be entrepreneurs, people who are startups, bringing people. I think you mentioned, Prava, about bringing together the you know, support services, the investors, and all those kind of things, and bring them together and creating a community out of all those. It's still a work in progress. We haven't had 43. We're on our 8th. So 7 of which have been, well, you know, we're getting there. And certainly when we had one in-person demo night, that was great in February, and then suddenly lockdown came and COVID came along. We thought, what we're going to do now, you know, so jumping on into the online world was quite a different, very much different for us as well as the audience, because obviously people were expected to come to in-person events. But I think we've made a successful fist of it. You know, it's been good. It's exciting. It's not the same as an in-person event, and I'd like to go back to a person event at some point, because I think they have a completely different energy. But you know, it's been exciting 6 months of you know, being given lemons and making lemonade, really.
Such an English expression. I love it. I think recently I heard, if you're given lemons, make mojitos. Right?
That's even better.
Do you, Nick and Stu, do you, on the top of your mind, do you remember any connection that you created, like introducing to people that you are really proud of? I don't know, like a startup investor or a guy that married someone, a connection that you established and you are feeling really proud of doing that?
Oh, I mean, there's literally thousands across the different ecosystems that are amazing. What I really like the most is when we start, and it's just like a personal passion of mine, but you know, I've operated in incubators in Bangalore, in Boston, in Lisbon, and in the UK. And what I love is when we start to do these global events and we start to have a reach across all of those ecosystems. And in Ghostbusters terms, you know, we kind of cross the streams. But then to see in the last global one in August, we had an edtech company from the Southwest, and we had an Indian tech company who deals with admissions for universities. And during that conversation, during those demos, and during the work we did beforehand with everybody, they started to connect. and the EdTech in Plymouth changed their whole approach to their whole business model. And they started to see India and other countries rather than the UK as growth opportunities and places they should not just be including, but prioritizing as a market for them. And they're refocusing, and their investment is refocusing into that. And to see that connection, to see those people that didn't know each other before pulling the event, that won't bump into each other, which is what our normal kind of modus operandi is, creating a group of people, a community that will bump into each other. You can't do Bangalore and Plymouth, and certainly at the moment it's not going to work, but to then watch them collaborate a little bit, and to see in the mentoring, as I was doing one of them afterwards, to see a whole new inspiration about their business that never would have come. That for me is joy. It really is amazing. Because I'm lucky enough that I have those kind of seeds already floating through my head, and sometimes it's very confusing, but to be able to see the gem of opportunity in India when you're just sat in Plymouth and you've never even thought about it before, it's been brilliant.
It's like that story about Steve Jobs when he was planning for the new building and the new Apple headquarters. He wanted like each floor only to have one bathroom so that people would bump into each other. Everyone going to the same place.
Yeah, you get a lot of trouble for that sort of stuff at the moment, right? You got to really design a bit better than that.
That would be the 80s or 90s.
Now we need online events to create these bumps.
Right. And we hope to do online and offline, COVID willing, I should say. But maybe this is a good time to do what's typical in a demo night, which is to show you some slides and give you sort of some of the technical things that we hope to offer. Shall we do that, Tiago?
Yes.
Share my screen.
While you prepare that, let me tell you that we have already more than 20 people attending, and we have here already Aveiro City Hall Incubator, we have the University Incubator, we have Coimbra University Incubator also represented, so it's quite cool to see the region coming up here. The audience, the networking is starting.
Fantastic. And that is actually genuinely what we hope to do in future, is to have a networking piece even to the online event. We didn't think we'd risk it tonight because it involves changing over to another platform, but we'll have it figured out by the next time. So welcome to all of these fantastic stakeholders in the area. We'd love to hear from you later on too. So very quickly, we'll zip through some of our own slides just to tell you a little bit about what it is we're going to do. Can you see my screen, everyone?
Yes, it's working well.
So here at Canopy, we will be bringing to Aveiro and the region some of the tools that Canopy has already established in other parts of the world. So what we do as sort of organizers is host these signature events that I'll tell you a little bit more about later on. We establish connections actively. So this is not just about creating the space for a community and allowing you to do it on, of course, you're welcome to do that on your own terms. But if you were to come to us and say, hey guys, do you know someone who can help me with fundraising, or even services like accounting or legal, we put ourselves in the position of actively sourcing a really good fit for you or a good contact for you that you can have a conversation with. Yes, of course, we build a community, and we provide opportunities for mentoring and coaching as well. And then where you get to play as part of the community is, step up, please, and share your knowledge, either on an informal or a formal basis. We'd love for any or all of you to be part of panel discussions that we would like to host, and other sort of events where we showcase your knowledge. Storytelling, this is something that Tiago has particularly said, he'd love to see more of that encouraged and grown here as a skill set in this part of Portugal. So we're here to give you the opportunity for that, and other capabilities of running a business. Whether you're a first-time founder, which I gather is a lot of the crowd for Canopy, or not, if you just want to develop and hone some of your other skills, you can do it with us. That's the idea. And this is kind of how we envisage the groups that come to that we bring together in the community, the players. So Stu talks about how Canopy brings together money, talent, and ideas. And for us, in this region of Aveiro and the central Portugal, we see ourselves connecting with entrepreneurs on the ground, with investors from all over Portugal, maybe all over the world. I think this has already started to happen with Canopy, different parts of the world. And of course, service providers, which includes incubators of the region. I think we've been lucky enough to speak to a few of them who've all said this would be a great sort of resource for each of them to be able to connect across the region as well as outside of the region. And the sort of signature events that we were talking about, these are the 4 strands. Demo nights are the core of our program. This happens for the region on a monthly basis. And if you've heard of demo nights before, or rather, if you haven't heard of demo nights before, they are opportunities usually for startups to stand up and talk about their new business. We talk about demo nights rather than pitch nights because we'd like to see people who've pushed their idea into an operational business, and then they get to demonstrate it on the night. We also do these things called reverse pitches, reverse pitch demo nights, where we have key players in the region stand up, or investors or incubators stand up and talk about what their offer is, so that the startups in the area and the entrepreneurs in the area know who they're talking to when they do their demo night. That's how we envisage starting the series, is before the end of this year, we like to have some investors and incubators stand up on stage. It might be online, it might be in person, and tell the community what they're about. And then we have some of these sort of community-wide sessions, panel discussions, Founder Fridays and how-to sessions. Tiago, do you want to talk about maybe that last panel discussion that we did and how exciting it was and the value of that?
Yeah, actually, my first demo night participation was a demo night in Lisbon. It was still on a physical event, so face-to-face event, where also had a panel discussion associated with it. And Stu invited me to participate on this panel discussion. And I loved the whole event, especially the demo night part. It was awesome, and it's something that you can only, I think we can only describe once you actually attend a real demo night with startups presenting, listening to the way that we ask for feedback. It's everything done with a lot of love around it, and it's really, you can really witness that. Mm-hmm. And yeah, about the panel discussions, so I loved it. In that session that I enrolled, was the theme was how easy and how difficult it is for you to find a co-founder. Mm-hmm. I had a lot of pains in that area, so a lot of things to share. And I was together with 3 different people also with their experience, and I felt really good on that place, and I loved the whole experience from start to end. It was really awesome. The one that we did recently was I think it was the first event that you and I organized, Prav and I, and invited already some key players from the region, like David Carvalho, who is here, and we can also invite him to jump a little bit to give his feedback about it. But it's always, the idea is always to have sessions, not so much technical, but again, talking about more the experience and inspiring people to also take the jump, to risk and be inspired by example.
Nice. Giving the first-time founders some confidence to jump in there with us. I think that's a perfect segue to this Founder Fridays, which are centrally run as well. Stu does these every month, and these are great opportunities to hear from real entrepreneurs who are undertaking some real challenges at the moment, and ask them questions. You know, these are all interactive sessions, and we really encourage that. And then these how-to sessions, which are really about putting an expert from the community on stage to sort of walk us through a particular process or area of business, shedding some light on that. I'd like to highlight that, you know, all of these really, we'd love to cater to the community's needs. So the more you guys tell us what you'd like to see, the more we can, we can do things that will help the community to grow. So yeah, and I think that takes us, I'm just conscious of time. So that takes us to the final slide, which is you know, how you can help to do this. And we've touched on this a little bit, and I think Stu's already engaging on the chat to ask some questions from some of the audience. You could become an organizer along with us. We've talked about, you know, the central region, partly because this is where we sort of started gathering interest. You know, you've heard that Tiago and I are from Aveiro, so we definitely knew we wanted to do it for our home city, our hometown. And then we heard that, you know, Lydia has an exciting ecosystem, and I hope that we hear from Isabel from IDDNet later on, incubator on the ground there. We connected with them, and they're super excited about Canopy coming to this part of the region as well. And as people in both parts, you know, both of these areas will tell you, it's all about connecting across and also outwards. So, you know, wouldn't it be great if we could establish connections with Coimbra and of course to Porto, even though it's not central, but for central to develop, you know, we see these connections to the existing economic nerve centers in Portugal as an important activity. So that's what we can offer too.
Right. Yes, and of course, everyone is invited for demo nights. I mean, I went to demo night Lisbon, of course, so it's something that there are no really strict boundaries here. Mm-hmm. And as Prava was saying, Porto, of course, can help, and people from Porto can help to boost up here the community, and also people from Lisbon. So this is what we want also to set up. So we want to have really strict boundaries. It's really the opposite. We want to connect also to service providers, to incubators from other regions, of course.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So please jump in if you'd like to help us with this massive ambition of you know, rounding up a community across Centro. I think that would be really welcome. You could join in if you're already inspired. I see a couple of people are in the chat. You could jump into the tribe, and I think we can circulate more information on that later on. This is that group that helps to drive Canopy. They are genuine, great people who are committed to your personal success as a member of the community. You could become a coach or a mentor, sign up to be one of those, or sign up to be one of the service providers that we can help to connect with entrepreneurs. And you could definitely spread the word. Please tell anyone who you think might be able to use this sort of resource about Canopy. We'd love to see them the next time, in a month's time, for the next demo night. And importantly, please tell us what you need. And on that note, I see that David Cavalier is on stage. Tiago, would you like to give David a little introduction?
Thanks a lot to David for joining. Yeah, no, I think no one is able to introduce himself better than David. I will ask him just to give a very quick note about what he's doing, but I can tell you right away that it's one of the most dynamic people here in the region, promoting the region and helping startups. And it has been really a pleasure getting to know him. And David was one of the participants, one of the panelists in the sessions that we organized. And it was really good to have him on board. David, Do you want to share a little bit about your about what you're doing to help startups, and also specifically about here in the Central region?
Yeah. So
we'd love to hear your take on the ecosystem as it is and what it needs next. These are our top two questions for the audience. Get us going.
Well, lately, first starting by what I've been doing. First, thank you so much, Sam, for the intro. For the past, let's say 3 to 4 years, I've been very active mentoring startups and providing the connection to investment, either from the startup position, so helping the startup reach investors, or from the investment fund side, helping them find startups to invest in and assess these startups in their capability to become, unicorns, hopefully. Then I've also been doing a fair amount of mentoring, both pro bono, just to help out the community, and also paid mentoring by the investment funds. And I would say that I've also been contributing with my own startup, because I got involved with the startup about a year and a half ago in the medical device arena. That is going fairly well. I hope that soon we're going to have our device in the market. We're starting now a pilot with 3 hospitals. Let's see how that goes. You never know. So basically that's what I've been doing. Responding to your question, yes, there are some problems that I see happening recurrently in most any ecosystem, I would say, around the world, the ones I had the opportunity of contacting, but here is no exception. The first, I would say, is the lack of skills. Reality is most entrepreneurs, they start their projects with the best of intentions, with their own skill sets that they try to develop on the fly. Creating a startup really is jumping without the parachute and build your parachute on your way down. And what this implies is that often, although they are doing their best, they are missing some specific critical skills in the development of their projects, and that then reflects not only their ability to develop the project adequately, but above all, and I face this on a daily basis, on their ability to acquire investment, because they do not understand fully what an investor really wants from them. So they're not able to frame their business in a way that makes sense to the investor. There, I would say that this community can really help. I have seen increasingly mentors, getting out there and starting to help startups. Portugal created a national mentor network, which really doesn't work. I am one of the mentors of the national mentor network, and I have to tell you that to this day, in the last 5 years, I had 2 startups assigned to me, and in both cases, they were assigned to me because I was referred to by someone else. The network itself does not function at all, and that is something that I think that the Canopy community can really help improve, which is to really identify specific skill sets in mentors and mentors that are available and putting them out there. But not only that, but funnily enough, what you often find is that startups are not really very open to reaching out to mentors. We don't have a mentorship culture in Portugal. The concept of mentor is relatively new, although you could argue that we had it, many years back when we had the apprenticeship and all that was lost, I would say, in the 20th century. But nowadays there is very little tradition of people reaching out to someone more experienced in some area to just help them out, just guide them through the process. So I think that there's an educational gap that needs to be covered. I don't know exactly in which framework this will happen. I've heard people suggesting that entrepreneurs should have a sort of entrepreneurial training course or something that would give them not only the basic skill sets, but that would allow them to understand what their shortcomings are and who they should be reaching out to. But yeah, I think that on one hand you have this side of the mentorship. On the other side you have the services, and this is actually a shortcoming that I find in every accelerator in Portugal, not everywhere in the world, fortunately, but everywhere in Portugal, which is there is very little specialization of the accelerators, and that reflects in the type of services they offer to the startups that appear here. You don't find, I would say, virtually anywhere specialized services that are completely turnkey. And by this I mean, you go to an incubator, they will offer you a place to work, right? Office, internet connectivity, perhaps free coffee and beer, access to an accountant and a lawyer, all good, all needed things. But now if I am a physical product startup, I need a lot more than that. I need someone that knows how to do product and industrial design. I need someone that can provide me with prototypes, physical prototypes, casings. I need someone that can eventually, design a mold to produce the plastics. I need someone who can handle the plastic injections to produce large series. There's a whole range of services that if pretty much any company that creates a physical device, they're going to need that. And what I'd like to see, and I have found this in the States, and I guess Stuart can also share his experience there, but also, for instance, I find in France, is that you go to an accelerator which is specialized on AI or specialized on physical products, and literally you have a menu of services with prices, pre-negotiated prices and pre-negotiated discounts, and with the contacts of the right people, that literally say, okay, so what you need? You need, you need a casing. Casing is this guy. You contact this guy. He has a prices for you. Give a discount because you are the accelerator. Oh, you need injections. Injection plastics. You have these two guys. They'll handle this. So someone that would really accelerate, as the name implies, accelerate the business by providing all this network of contacts, all this network of services, which is specific to a certain vertical. And here again, I think that the Canopy community could really help complement, or at least try to solve some of these problems. I'd really like to see in Portugal this, a menu, AI menu, web store or web product menu, physical product menu, and Tiago has a startup with physical product. I've been mentoring him for a while. We've come across this. I've given him a bunch of contacts because he has nowhere like a checklist of places he can go for each of the things he needs. So it becomes kind of word of mouth, and then I may have the right contacts or I may not. It becomes more of an art than a science, and creating a startup should be a science.
I fully agree. It's a big pain I have as an entrepreneur to really know which company I should now approach, if I can trust them, if I cannot. It feels always like I'm starting from scratch every time I need a new service, starting from zero.
I think this is so many people will raise their hand to say no, that this is how they're feeling in this entrepreneurial community. So it was super interesting to hear, David, and really take on board what you're asking for. I think one of our first jobs will be to try and identify the sorts of sectors that we will focus on. Hear what you're saying, physical products with a little bit of AI. Thank you so much. I want to say, add to Tiago's warm welcome and just say thanks so much for being an ambassador for Canopy Centro from the last time you were involved. And we hope to see you more on stage and off stage. So it's already 6:31, but I would love for us to still hear from at least a couple of people on stage and anyone else who wants to jump in. Tiago, shall we roll on to the next person?
Yes. So I invited also Isabel and Carla also to hear a little bit basically their testimony about being now this time as an incubator. So which are their pain points? What do they feel that it's really missing, and which type of complaints they hear the most from the startups that they help to incubate.
Should we give them a huge Canopy welcome to the stage then? You know, come on. All right.
I think I will take the opportunity. I will try to invite also Diogo from the PCI incubator here in Aveiro.
We have a full incubator set.
David, thank you for your help. I will invite you to leave.
My pleasure.
I can.
Thank you for having me.
See you later.
Great work. Congratulations.
Thanks so much. See you soon. Bye.
But maybe if you don't mind, Isabel, I would start with Carla, because also Carla, I think will have to leave quite soon.
Yes.
Just to gather your feedback about your experience as incubator manager.
Hi, good afternoon to all, and thank you for the invitation. Well, here in Aveiro, in our incubator, it's a very young incubator, so we have only 3 years old. So our experience is not well extended to the point that we have some extended knowledge, but of course, all the things that David told, we also feel that there are this type of lacks in our community, especially the knowledge or the skills. Sometimes the simple skills to develop a company, and we are talking about the simple management skills or the networking skills, the attitude to look and research for companies or to interact with people. I feel that some of the entrepreneurs, they close themselves and think that, okay, I am in a bubble. This is a big idea, so I don't need to talk with nobody because I'm a genius and I will figure it out. All of this, and we are always trying to push them to go to the events, network events or workshops, or even a small initiative like this one, because we believe that the network and the connectivity and the opportunities that this type of events create are huge to the development of their project. This is a very lack that we feel, the connectivity and the willing for the entrepreneurs to interact with each other.
Right.
This is one of that here. And this is extended to the...
I don't know where it's coming from, because you
Because here I'm alone. Is there an announcement, Carla?
That's strange, because
No, I don't have anything.
Wow.
okay.
Okay. And this is extended to the more specific knowledge. As David mentioned, we have a lack of specialized knowledge. This is common around the world, that is programming and coding. We are facing now this lack of human resources knowledge. And in this sense, the Aveiro city is trying to promote, I don't know if some of you know already, but others don't. We have an initiative that is called Aveiro Tech City, that we intend to promote training and education in this type of fields, in the STEAM city, and in coding, programming, because we want to retain talent in one hand, and the other hand to be able that our companies can stay here because they have specialized human resources in this type of area, because Aveiro is known for being an ICT city, an innovation city. So it's our intent to retain this type of talent and startups, new startups, and the companies that are already here.
Nice.
So our big challenges is to retain talent, of course, and also to promote a more networking community. I don't know, sometimes I feel that they want to stay in their house and couches and not to
The second time
talk about yes,
evening that the network doesn't work, huh? So
yes,
something
yes.
that we can help with.
Yes, certainly. And I think these type of events are very crucial and important for the community.
Great, thank you. We'll be sure to get people off their sofas, won't we?
Yes, we will.
If COVID will let us get them off their sofas and into an event room, that would be awesome. But otherwise, at least in front of the computer.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Carla.
I know we're short on time, Prabha, but I just wanted to reflect a little bit on that comment before. So speaking openly and perhaps oversharing a little bit, I'm an only child, which means I don't listen to anybody particularly. I make all my own rules up. And as an entrepreneur, I built my first company, with a lot of drive and enthusiasm, but it took me 13 years to build it and to sell it. And I now know through mentoring and help that I could have done it in 6 or 7 and probably done it better. So even an only child can learn. So whatever genius out there thinks they don't need some help, you carry on, but you may make the same mistakes as me, which is you make a bit less money and you do it in a lot longer with a lot more pain.
Yes.
Whereas if you just ask for some help along the way, some really good people might have helped you. And, you can help your family and other people a bit more when you do that stuff as well. So it's worth a look. All right. If even the only child can learn, you can learn too.
Another time.
Yes.
If your mom won't hug you, Canopy will. If your early child, you can learn too. Thanks so much, Carla, for your contribution. Really appreciate that. We've got a couple of other awesome incubators from the region. Shall we hear from Isabel, who's been one of the first to jump on board and say she'd love to see us doing our work here. So I would love to hear from you, Isabel. Please introduce yourself and give us your.
Good afternoon. I'm from Leiria, from an incubator IDDNet in Leiria. I have to say that I don't really agree with all that David said about incubators, but
David, back on the stage. No. But we'll have that fight another time.
But in fact, there's a lack of skill and answers, but a lot of times it's because there is no funding for the kind of things. And this is an issue that matters to me. Almost all our entrepreneurs have a bootstrap profile. I don't know why. Perhaps it's as Stuart said, because they love to do it in their own way, or because there are so many stories of self-made men, and there are so many stories of family businesses. And so their mindset doesn't see as an issue as a path for them to have investors, to grow bigger and faster with the help of mentors and etc. So I think we could do some good job here with testimonies of why do it with mentors and investors instead of doing by yourself. It would be interesting. I feel like Carla and others, and would like to hear a little about Canopy experience, because in the first part of this event you have told us how wonderful is the community. I agree. And what attracts me more is the fact of the community have no borders. It's a trans-border community, and it's the best thing it has. But surely it is difficult for Canopy to gather people in, and I'd like to hear about your difficulties, because this is where we can start working and helping to grow this community. So this is some challenges that I give you. And perhaps one last challenge is to help entrepreneurs from Portugal or from the center of Portugal to have a global stage, because I think there is still a cultural thing between the north of Europe and the south of Europe and of the planet, that in the south we don't know how to do things, we are not so good at, and so we need some stage. Some thoughts.
Yes, I heard you say that when we first met, Isabel, and I think we do take that on board as well as one of our tasks. I would love to see the local muscle build as well. I think alongside, I think this is what Canopy is really well equipped to do. So, yeah.
I really remember the first time we talked. You mentioned that you wanted to give this feeling of internationalization to the incubators, to the startups that you have there in your incubator.
Yes, I think perhaps there's also a lack of confidence. They don't feel like as we are part of a global system, and that we can dream like you, Tiago, or others.
I think that's a really good thing about Canopy, is that it's, as Prava was saying, it's very informal, and it's not that much like really obsessed with looking professional and looking perfect, and really it is
perfect English, or you know, I know holds a lot of people back, but you know, when you're in a global community, things get done with you know, a lot less perfection and a lot less fluency than we assume. So that maybe can help with the confidence picture. No? I think Stu was raising his hand.
I only have about 4,000 things to say, and I know we're like totally running out of time, so I'm sorry for that. But, you know, the big tool that I think is important to all of Canopy globally, which is why I wanted to mention it, is what I call close mentoring, and other people might call a tribal approach. And it's the idea that everybody has something that they can mentor people in, and everybody has something to be mentored in. And there are times when you go to the grey hairs and the no hairs like me, and there are times when you go to the people who've just done what you're trying to do. And I think what we have as a massive asset to Canopy is a lot of people who have done stuff that can help other people 6 or 12 or 18 months after they've done it. So a great example, you know, Tiago mentioned earlier, he'd raised money with InnoEnergy. Anybody else looking to raise money, seed funding with InnoEnergy, should speak to Tiago and get some mentoring from him. He's not going to charge him. He's going to help them. He's going to smooth things over with InnoEnergy. He's going to do little things which make that more successful for them. And they may not actually be successful, but they will be more likely to be successful because of his help. And Tiago may be doing a Series A in a couple of years' time, and he may be asking, you know, Fonseca from Leria for some support, and he'll give some 3 or 5 hours of close mentoring and that guidance of what he's done, and he'll help smooth it through. And it's that system that we can make operate globally as well. So if you're doing a product-based company in Leria, great. Maybe you can be close mentored by Abhishek from Bangalore on what he did over there, and that will help you be successful, and also maybe open up that stage for you as well. And we now have all these people who've been helped in this way, who will also now give again to other people, because they know, like I know, how much it's helped them to do what they've been doing. And the more we keep doing that, and the more we kind of tribally keep helping people up one rung at a time, the more it grows again. And there are very few people that get helped that never help. There are very few people that just take it and never give back. And most people will give back 2 or 3 times as much as they ever received. And as long as the whole community keeps doing that, it will never stop. And I think that's such a massive tool. our agenda is so open and our agenda is so also inclusive that it means we can play with every incubator and every accelerator and every municipality and everybody that wants to get access to this and to help. And it doesn't break our agenda, it doesn't break our commercial model, and it doesn't break us as our overall strategy. It actually enhances it. So I hope that helps us. I'm going to limit my 6,000 things down to that. Okay.
No, I think that was great. Like this give back theme is huge in Canopy. It sums up why Tiago and I wanted to do this. I think any entrepreneur on the journey who's been at it for more than a few months will know that, or maybe a couple of years, you start to realize that people who help you, this is how you get to the next stage, and with the expectation of not really getting anything back. People, this is what defines Canopy, is everyone here is here to help you to the next rung without the expectation of getting anything back. So thanks so much, Stu. Go on.
Okay, two things.
That's why we have you here, so don't worry.
Building on David's point, in effect, his list is, there are some startups which are truly unique, but there are a lot of startups that have common elements, and most startups have certain common things that if you can Control-C, Control-V from previous lives, you can do 60, 80, 90% more of it. Sorry, geeky enough. You can get 60 or 80% of the way pretty quick. Don't try and reinvent that stuff and push new barriers and create artistry where it doesn't need to be done. Create the artistry in the remaining 10 or 20% where artistry will be valued. But that Control-C, Control-V stuff, if you don't ask for it, you don't get it, and you just have to reinvent it all again, and that's insanity. Now I'll shut up. I promise.
No.
Shut up.
We're here to help you, not make the same mistake that we did, right? That's kind of another big theme. So thanks so much, Isabel, for coming on too. And we appreciate the honesty. I love that you felt free to disagree on stage. That's exactly what we hope, the environment we hope to create, because we want to grow. And you can only do that by being honest with yourself, right? So thank you very much. And take care. We'll see you soon, for sure.
Bye.
Bye, Isabel. And Diogo, you might be the one to close us out. Thank you so much for joining. We know that it's kind of come together very quickly. There's this Gemmonite Centro, but we're delighted to have you. So please jump in, tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you'd like to see here in Aveiro.
Thanks. So firstly, I would like to start to congratulate you to start to get those kind of activities here in the region center, because nowadays we are receiving a lot of foreigners, entrepreneurs, but even though they start with a cluster in Lisbon, and then they realize that it could be interesting to develop their ideas in the center region, but then they need to go to Lisbon or to Porto, to the huge clusters, to be present in some kind of events. And I think sometimes it's kind of a snowball, so we need to start to build community and then to get people around events instead of waiting for the community and then get the opportunity to start events. So I think that strategy to make events here and to start to rebuild the community is quite important. And also about the mentorship and one of the biggest proposals of Canopy, we have here in Aveiro the Mentor Hall. It's a network of mentors from the Aveiro. But even though it's quite important, as Stuart said and David said also before, that's why we should use only the mentors from our region, because they probably do the same as we do, because the culture is the same and the way that we work is the same. So let's go abroad, let's look for other people, other experience and other cultures, and interact together. And with that internship, we can go further with our projects. So I think that's a really good point. In terms of my experience with the incubator, I would like to say that those kind of events as networking sessions and pre-accelerators or ways that people can validate their ideas are really important. Nowadays, for example, with the Startup Voucher, that's a grant from the government, we are looking for a lot of shield that they are just because it's funny, it's fancy to have a startup or to be an entrepreneur nowadays. And so they got grant during 12 months, and then when the work starts to be hard, they said, no, that's not for me. It's okay, but I can put on my CV that I was an entrepreneur. So I think that we passed by a phase that people struggled a lot, even with their parents and the culture and everybody, to be an entrepreneur. And now it's quite funny to be an entrepreneur. And I think it's that's way so easy to be an entrepreneur. Sometimes it's bad for the community, because people need to be more mature and they need to be sure what they are putting in, because it's a lot of problems when we want to be an entrepreneur, and we need to make really hard decisions. And I think people are not ready for that. So I think it's important to have that pre-filter before, to filter the truly entrepreneurs and the one maybe they want to be entrepreneurs, and to avoid the ones they just want to show off. And I think we are nowadays with a mix of community, and it's important for people. Even for me, I thought some time ago that I could be an entrepreneur, and nowadays I help entrepreneurs, but I'm not the true entrepreneur, because I know that I'm not ready to leave my financial commitments, or to live 24 hours per day to my own project and to sleep. I would like to dedicate also time for my family, for my friends. And I know that even though the entrepreneurs, they should do it, but sometimes it's hard to do it because they need to do other things. And it's a lifestyle that I think people need to be ready for that. And a lot of times people are not.
So how many foreigners, entrepreneurs do you have in the PCI at the moment?
In PCI nowadays we have, I think, 11 different nationalities.
Wow.
And I would say maybe between ideas and startups, I think are 16, if I'm not wrong now. Yes. And now we stopped a little bit because with COVID, so they are not getting their visas, so they are not coming. But there's a lot of new leads that we are leading with, and we are talking. And they will come, I hope, soon to Aveiro and to the central region. And there's a lot, like Fundão, Cavalier. There's a lot of regions that the entrepreneurs are looking. So I think the huge clusters are no longer so sexy for the foreigners, because they saw also there's a lot of people. And so they prefer to come to a relaxed and calm place where they know that the incubator stuff is more sensitive. Also, we have, for example, the soft landing for foreigner entrepreneurs. So it happened already at 9 a.m. on Saturday. Diogo, sorry, I ran out of gas. What should I do? Yeah, because they don't know it. So it's important to be nearby.
Oh, that can really get in the way, right? If you spend a couple of days sorting that out, you haven't done anything else, right?
Yes. So and usually when you go to the huge clusters, it's harder to get that proximity. So they are looking for that. And then they realize that Portugal is quite small. So it's quite easy to go to Porto or to Lisbon to make business, or to be present in some events. So they prefer to be here. And then obviously the grants, and that's easier also to be approved with some grants from the government or the EU, instead of being in Lisbon with a fiscal company in Lisbon or in Porto. So I think it's a good point for us also, that we should promote and work on it. And just to close it up also, in terms of Aveiro, so that's the biggest point. Even though, as Carlos said also, we got now the STEAM city. The city it's changing, and I think it will take really good things. But I still think that it's important for us to be really good at a point. For example, Aveiro is quite good in electronics or in materials, raw materials. So I think we should strategically to get those areas, those economic areas that we are really good, and exponential them for the market. And that all of the people that, for example, now the incubator and the university, we are in a project called eBridge that is it started in Munich in Germany, and it has, I think it's 12 countries also, with one university from each country. And the purpose is also to get mentors and teachers from the other countries to interact with the projects from our side. So it's to make here also some exchanges, And what they said, Aveiro is awesome about robotics and electronics, isn't it? So we have here some projects let them talk with your teachers from the university. Let them to get some mentorship and some coaching on those areas. And for us, if it's robotics or management, it's the same. If they ask, we can provide someone that will help them. But I think we should go straight in some areas and be really, really good on those, as Praga did it somehow also. And I think we need to change a little bit that strategy and our positioning on entrepreneurship to be specialized in some